Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, a Black adjacent hodder of a major transit center that was the CEO that they stepped down over questionable immigration status. Yes. Yes. See, the thing about in this system of supremacy, which I would call the most brilliant mental manipulation force that has ever existed, because it thrives on chaotic chaos. And one of those things that they know, because they're all brilliant, is to sit there and have people to have Black adjacent hodder phenotypes. Oh, yes. And the thing about it is that they like for millions of American Blacks to be like, well, you know what, they're just like us. Well, you know what, they have oppression too. They've been going through their own stuff. And while at the same time, what those same type people do when they sit there and hear those American Blacks say that nonsensical stuff like that, naive situation. This is how they sound. Yes. So in this situation right here, this guy was over the MARTA system, a very large major transit center in Atlanta, and the CEO. But again, we look at this picture again. Supremacists loves personnel like this. They love them because they know they can control them easier than specifically more American Blacks. I'm not talking about coons and sellouts and some gullible ones, right? I'm not talking about them. But see, this like in various political situations and some other areas, all the system loves to put the Black adjacent ones in there, right? They love it. Now, this situation, this particular person or personnel, should we say, act like that they didn't even know that they had questionable immigration status. So let me go ahead and share my screen on this situation. Give me one moment here. One moment. Let's see here. Which one I want to go here? All right, let's do this one. All right. So let me make sure it's okay and everything here. All right. Let me maximize this a little bit. All right, then. Let me go ahead and play this.
Citing immigration issues, MARTA's general manager has left the transit system. MARTA board members said he returned to his home country as the U.S. tightens its enforcement of MARTA board members said he returned to his home country as the U.S. tightens its enforcement of immigration laws.
Doug Richards is at MARTA headquarters for us this afternoon. Doug, was Collie Greenwood at the board meeting today?
Collie Greenwood was not at the board meeting today. His tenure here in Atlanta, at least as CEO, is relatively brief, possibly unraveled somewhat by national politics. Greenwood had spent much of his career helping to run a bus system and a transit system in the largest city in Canada, Toronto. Collie Greenwood joined MARTA in 2019 and run a bus system and a transit system career politics. Greenwood had spent much of his career helping to run a bus system and a transit system in the largest city in Canada, Toronto. Collie Greenwood joined MARTA in 2019 and rose quickly to become the transit system CEO less than 3 years ago. The CEO job came at a tragic moment after the previous CEO, Jeffrey Parker, committed suicide at a MARTA station. Greenwood was absent from today's MARTA board meeting. The Chief Customer Experience Officer, Rhonda Allen, ran the meeting, and the board later named her interim CEO. Board members said Greenwood had left the country with his family following unspecified immigration issues. Board members said Greenwood had left the country with his family following unspecified immigration issues. Greenwood had left the country with his family following unspecified immigration issues. And several board members said they were unhappy to see him go.
Immigration is a very complicated issue in the United States today. But Mr. Greenwood needed to make the decision that was best for him and his family, and his MARTA family will miss him tremendously.
Mm, 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 mm. The insultingness, right, of this. So they act like that, or this Black adjacent hotter did not know that they had questionable immigration status that was coming up. Or did someone let them know, hey, you know what, Black adjacent hotter, you need to step down. Are we going to let the people know that you're over here in a questionable immigration status? Just saying. However, situations. But again, see, but now should I say, but they couldn't find a Black American to be put in a position. So he's not even Black American. He is actually from Canada, right? A citizen of Canada. A citizen of Canada. Do you see the insultingness of this? But let me go ahead and share this other screen on this situation. Give me one moment. Not going to be a long show. Make sure you can see that. Okay. Marta CEO stepping down over issues with Marta CEO stepping down over issues with immigration status. See, people that know, again, with certain, I mean, there are certain variable areas of margin to say, yeah, they know who is basically overall Black Americans, by various variables. It ain't just one thing. Now, by the look, overall, there are Black Americans who look at that person now and they know he's not Black American. And if some of them do get a kind of hot under the Black adjacent banner, which numbers of them do, then you start having a conversation with them, you start realizing, yeah, this is not a Black American, but they've been put in the positions, right, to be over Black American things or infiltrate under Black American things. And there are people within certain parts of Padami's culture who will put them in certain places and things. You understand that, right? And however, they'll put their own numbers of people in certain places, right, over Black Americans, right? Because there's an agenda that they're trying to do. MARTA CEO Colin Greenwood. See that name? I said other variables. You couldn't, the name by itself, I should be like, oh, they couldn't tell. Now, here's the thing about it. Where is he originally from? He's a Canadian citizen. And you can look at many articles and they make sure not to talk about where was he originally from. Where is his parents from? Were they from certain parts of sections of Africa? And that person's parents fled? Were they from a certain main Caribbean islands, right? 21 supplies to. And that person fled to Canada? You see how that goes. But they make sure in these many articles, various articles, they don't talk about that. Oh, he's just Canadian citizen. Right. Okay. His parents, they were born in Canada. Right. So Marta CEO Colin Greenwood stepped down from his position Thursday when this happened, citing concerns about his immigration status and personal matters. See how that goes, right? According to the Transit Authority, Greenwood is a Canadian citizen. And his work permit expired last month. And he had been in this position for long enough to know if, hey, his authorization to work, that it was expiring soon. He knew very much well. Or did he think that he can just keep sliding under the black adjacent banner? Though his green card is forthcoming, Greenwood decided to stop working. You have to stop doing that, did if he know it's forthcoming. So he didn't know that beforehand. However, board personnel didn't know that. He didn't talk to the board to let them know beforehand. Apparently not, because all of a sudden he just happened to step down. What's behind the veil, people? Upon expiration of his work permit on June 18, 2025, and out of the abundance of caution, Mr. Greenwood ceased working, personally notify all Marta board members and executive leadership individual and sign a delegation of authority to Mrs. Allen, Mr. Greenwood. Mr. Greenwood's Canadian visa is valid. Watch the words. And he remains in this country. And he remains in this country legally, awaiting imminent delivery of his green card. A recent statement from Marta reads, I just then showed you a video where it said he left the country with his family. Which one is it? You got to know how these games are played. His wife, he said, my wife and I have decided this is a good opportunity to take an early retirement and spend more time with our family and friends. I do want to thank the board, the executive leadership team, and everyone at Marta for their support and their continued work to improve and grow transit service in this region, Greenwood said in a statement. See these little games, right? See these little games that's being played so much, right? Let me throw this out to you. But at the same time, hold on, give me a second here. One moment here. Give me one moment here. But just give me one moment. So at the same time, when it comes down to sit there and having various black adjacent personnel, when you're like, hey, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, black adjacent personnel? When black pain keeps happening to black Americans and various black adjacent hodders keep benefiting off that, and they keep trying to call black Americans divisive, while at the same time they being divisive with their own little thing, their own little tribalism, their own little various section of Caribbean tribalism, the one it applies to, right? Having their own little flag days or their whatever the celebrations in various parts of the United States, right? But they're not being divisive, right? But American blacks are supposed to be like, we all Africans or whatever that's supposed to call. But you don't hear gigantic people in Africa. I mean, Caribbeans call themselves African all over the place. They say, no, well, I'm Jamaican, I'm St. Lucian, I'm Barbadian. You get the point. But American blacks supposed to say they're African. When you got Howard person there in various parts of Africa, don't even call themselves African, right? They're an African continent, but they say we're not African. We're of this tribe and that tribe, right? You see how this game goes, but black Americans are the only people, right? They're supposed to be the people supposed to say that they Africans. You don't go somewhere with that damn game, right? But give me a second. I want to show you what numbers of the black adjacent hodders do. Let me show you what they do when it comes down to it. When they be trying to call black American people divisive, but when it comes down to black pain issues, this is what they do.
Exit station left.
Yes. What do they do? This is what they do. Uh-oh. Hold on.
Exit station left.
Yes. This is what numbers of those black adjacent hodders do on that. So in this situation right here, the contradiction of Colin Greenwood stepping down as if he didn't know he had questionable immigration status that was coming up, But as long as that pay was coming in, he ain't say nothing, did he? Nope. So let me go ahead and share my screen again on this. Not gonna be a long show at all. What's this? Okay, I think I here. No, let me do that. No, I'll show that, so I don't want to show that again. Give me a second here. One moment here. One moment here. Did I play that? Oh, well, I guess I'd have read that. Well, I guess pretty much. You know what? Hold on. Well, I think oh, here we go. So let me sit there and show this part right quick. So about the martyr part, right? Where Colin Greenwood was the CEO. He was over the martyr. And they still have him under leadership as a general manager and CEO. And he's already stepped down and fled back to Harvard country. Marta general manager and CEO Colin Greenwood is a 37-year-old transit veteran with experience ranging from frontline operation and executive leadership. You got to watch the game. He's not 30. He wasn't in March's transit for 37 years. You got to watch the words. Greenwood joined Marta as the chief of bus operations and urban planning in July of 2019 and was appointed deputy general manager of operations and urban planning 2020. And in October 2022, the Marta board of directors named him general manager and CEO. October 2022. So they couldn't find a Black American, right? They couldn't find one. As GM, CEO, Greenwood is leading Marta's largest and most ambitious expansion and modernization program since its founding over 40 years ago. Greenwood is working closely with his senior leadership team to develop and deliver major capital projects to enhance the customer experience, including adding new rail cars and electric buses to Marta's fleet. In 2024, Greenwood was named to Atlanta Magazine's Atlanta 500 list and Georgia Trend's 100 most influential Georgians under his leadership. Marta was honored with the Outstanding Public Transportation System Award by the American Public Transportation Association for remarkable leadership, system-wide excellence, and serving as an exemplary role model for other North American transit centers, while at the same time he fled. After Harvard personnel or whomever sit there and perhaps called him out and relayed over, hey, you have some questionable leadership status, questionable immigration status. You need to step down, right? And what did he do?
Exit station left.
Right? So that goes. But that's many Black adjacent hodders that have fled and come over to America from fleeing and have the nerve to talk down about American Blacks when they couldn't even get things situated in their own homeland. This is why they're so jealous of Black Americans, right? Last thing I want to sit there and show you. Make sure anything else. Okay. Last thing I want to sit there and show. Give me one moment. Is this right here? Make sure my screen. Is this right here? One moment here. Give me one moment. Where'd it go? Wait, hold on. Oh, shucks. Did I sit there and... Oh, shucks. Wait a minute. Oh, here we go. This right here. From Tariq Nasheed's channel, and the title was Caribbean Cosplayer Caught Capping. Now, this is not about this particular Caribbean hating anti-American Black hater, but there was some parts in there I wanted to show what he was saying that also was relevant and related to the Black adjacent hodders and some other people that slot under the Black banner and some other groups and stuff like that who know they are that sit there and trying to get over Black Americans as well.
We get undermined because what happens is these folks come in, infiltrate, the institutions foreign by foundational Black Americans. And then when they start taking over, everything becomes degraded. They infiltrate and then gut everything, and they're no longer useful to us. Right? Look at the organizations that these folks come in and infiltrate. The NAACP, it's a whole bunch of foreigners running that now. How's that working for us? How's the NAACP working for us today? Let's just be real. The Urban League, they done infiltrated that. Nothing. You go to the Urban League, they're talking about immigrants. The Congressional Black Caucus. What have they done? And that's full of non-FBAs now. How's that working for us? They literally don't do anything for us. I mean, nothing, but everything for immigrant groups. Come on now. Look at all the institutions that they become a part of and look what happens. Look at some of the HBCUs now. They're letting these folks, these foreigners, become the presidents of them. And all of a sudden we get this massive immigrant enrollment. You got Mexicans and all of this stuff all up in the HBCUs now. Just like we talked about that story the other day, somebody got deported or he got put in an immigration detention and the media tried to be slick. Oh, a Morehouse graduate got detained. Boy, the HBCU community is really up in arms. But they didn't say in the headline that the dude was a goddamn Hispanic. Just say that. Don't run the Jedi mind trick. The dude is Hispanic. You see? But yeah, they get in these organizations and all of a sudden everything becomes degraded because there's another agenda. Look at Essence. That's why everybody's up in arms about Essence. Essence was great. The Essence Festival was great. The Tethers got their hands on it. It immediately started going to hell. So we're not just making stuff up here.
The trueness of that. And again, that little part I wanted to show is relevant to this topic, and I'm about to close it out. Is that like this gentleman right here, Colin Greenwood, who was the MARTA Atlanta major bus transit center, bus train center, bus train, etc. Transit center in Atlanta. One of the largest, top 3 or top 5 largest transit centers in America, and he was inside as a CEO. And then all of a sudden, they found out, it was found out later on that he had questionable immigration status, and all of a sudden, this is what he did.
Exit station left.
Yes. So it's not a funny thing whatsoever. It isn't an insulting thing, but this is what many numbers of Black adjacent hiders do. They're put in positions as a buffer to be over Black Americans and some other groups as well, right? But Black Americans are supposed to be just like, yeah, we ain't worried about none of that. You know, we're all one people, or we're Africans, or we're humanity. And even in Africa, you don't have even African. Many Africans call themselves African. This is the benefit. They go by tribes first, right? Or areas first, right? And you certainly are not going to tell the Massa people that you're Africans first, right? Or the San people, some of the original people of Africa. You're not going to tell them, no, you're African first, right? You get the situation. But this is a game that continues to be played over and over. What's this here? All right, so when Blacks move to big cities, whites move out. Whites moved out. Now the immigrants are moving to the big cities. Blacks need to move out. Well, I mean, I guess on that situation, now the immigrants are moving to the big cities. Blacks need to move out. Not quite sure what you mean about they need to move out. Not quite sure on that situation. So if you want to let me know before I finish off, what do you mean by on that when Blacks move to the big cities? whites moved out. Now the immigrants are moving to the big cities. Blacks need to move out. So I'm not quite sure if you're saying that because more immigration personnel moving in, that blacks need to move out. If that's what you're saying, I don't want to guess. So I'll give it a few seconds if you want to respond to that before I close down the show. Because again, the thing about it is, just like in the situation, numbers of immigration personnel, the ones applies to, right, and black adjacent personnel, it's like when they get in position and stuff like that, they do their thing. But at the same time, when it comes down to helping out Black Americans and stuff like that, they do this like this again.
Exit station left.
That's what keeps happening over and over and over, right? Just like the thing with the let me show what's one last thing again. And one last thing with this particular topic on this. Stepping down here. Let's complete this one last time.
Immigration issues. MARTA's general manager has left the transit system. MARTA board members said he returned to his home country as the U.S. tightens its enforcement of immigration laws.
Doug Richards is at MARTA headquarters for us this afternoon. Doug, with Collie Greenwood at the board meeting today.
Collie Greenwood was not at the board meeting today. His tenure here in Atlanta, at least as CEO, is relatively brief, possibly unraveled somewhat by national politics. Greenwood had spent much of his career helping to run a bus system and a transit system in the largest city in Canada, Toronto. Collie Greenwood joined MARTA in 2019 and rose quickly to become the transit system CEO less than 3 years ago. The CEO job came at a tragic moment after the previous CEO, Jeffrey Parker, committed suicide at a MARTA station. Greenwood was absent from today's MARTA board meeting. The chief customer experience officer, Rhonda Allen, ran the meeting, and the board later named her interim CEO. Board members said Greenwood had left the country with his family following unspecified immigration issues. Members said Greenwood had left the country with his family following unspecified immigration.
And see, that's the thing about it again. The opportunity when they continue to go within the buffer of American blacks, area stuff like this, going to the HBCUs, going to different companies, going to higher political stuff like that. And when they get in there, again, it's, oh, well, trying to get their own people in there. I do their thing and stuff like that. But then when American blacks are sitting there saying delineation, it's like, oh, y'all being divisive. But at the same time, like in this situation with Colin Greenwood, you can, I mean, from people that know, like, no, okay, he's definitely not a Black American and stuff like that. But when the situation came to existence where they knew he had questionable leadership staff, or he knew it and he kept that under wraps. But as soon as, it was found out, this is what he did again.
Exit station left.
Right? But that's the way it goes on that situation. And there is a lot of hatred for American blacks. I wasn't going to play this part, but I'm going to play this a few seconds of this on that previous video I was sitting there showing from Tariq's radio. I'm going to show this one. I'm just going to show us a few minutes of the beginning part on this part here, because it wasn't really what I was going to show, but just a few minutes of the beginning part of the hatred that still goes on toward numbers of American blacks, right? So again, I'm not talking about numbers of good personnel from certain parts of Africa, or some of the good brothers and sisters from certain parts of the Caribbean. I'm talking about the hateful ones that had to flee, and they're mad at American blacks, right?
Descendants of slaves all up and down the Americas, baby. As a matter of empire today. I don't know what the it is with this weird ass obsession that Black Americans have with holding ourselves and the fact that we are descendants of slaves over everybody else. But I just want to remind y'all that there are descendants of slaves, African descendants of slaves, all up and down the Americas, baby. As a matter of fact, the majority of enslaved African people didn't even come to these shores. They went to the shores of the Caribbean and South America. People love to uphold Black American resistance as the crown jewel of all African resistance. And let me tell you, okay, we owe a lot of thanks to our brothers and sisters in Haiti and Jamaica, because without them revolting when they did, we would not have been free when we were.
Now you're talking about she sounds like a pack of donkey shit on that. And the thing about her background, she act like that. I guess she's Black American, which she's not. But in her Black background, she has the Jamaican flag, of course, on the right side, but she's probably Jamaican. And on the left side, she has the pride flag and the lesbian pride flag, and has the nerve to talk about Black Americans, while she's herself an undercover, or should I say, a Black adjacent hotter as well, which she fled, or her mama, dad, or both of them fled from Jamaica, or wherever it is. Do they thing, whatever it is. But then you can tell who knows about Black American history and who does not, right? What's going on in Haiti right now? You got numbers of Haitians that dare not, can't even go to DR on the opposite side, because numbers of people from DR, the ones that possibly like, get your little Negro Haitian self back over there. We don't want you over there. But of course, a little fool right here, she ain't gonna talk about that, right? She knows better. And I know she ain't talking about no Jamaica. I know she ain't talking about that part, and thinking that the ones I'm talking about are some kind of leadership role where you got numbers of various other Caribbean countries and that sit there, and people that know that can't even stand Jamaicans and stuff like that. So you can tell who knows Black American history and who's trying to play these little games, right? Black Americans did not depend on Haitian history. Black American people didn't depend on numbers of African history whatsoever. Black Americans are their own unique culture. So the thing about it is, it's just an interesting thing that these people are so got full of hatred, right, on that situation, right, on that. So I'm gonna play for a few more minutes, and I'm gonna go ahead and close it out on that situation.
Caribbean and South America. People love to uphold Black American resistance as the crown jewel of all African resistance. And let me tell you, okay, we owe a lot of thanks to our brothers and sisters in Haiti and Jamaica, because without them revolting when they did, we would not have been free when we were. The Haitian Revolution literally destabilized the Western Empire that existed in Europe. And the West has never let them forget it, which is why they're in debt right now. While y'all boast about the profitability of Black American culture, our tax dollars are literally being used to bomb children in Somalia.
I mean, the foolishness of this person, right? Now you got 50 plus countries in Africa, and you notice how she's not saying Pan-African needs to come together on that and push out various second wave and third wave colonization type people. Notice how she's not saying about that. Notice how she's not talking about in Jamaica right now, that however parts of the airport and how other places that there is foreign investment left and right more than Black Jamaicans that's happening in Jamaica. She's not talking about that. She's not talking about in various parts of Africa and certainly various parts of Jamaica, you have lesbianism and LGBTQness is going in there infecting even more and more. She's not talking about that. Now, however, to the person, each of their own lifestyles, however it is, but it's unfunny how these Black adjacent hodders continue to keep trying to insult Black Americans, but they don't want to sit there and get a responsibility, like in Jamaica, for the foreign colonization that's taken over Jamaica. They don't want to sit there and talk about various parts of Africa that's being foreign invaded by various types of second and third wave colonization type people. They don't want to talk about there's no such thing as Pan-Africanism going on over there. They don't talk about extreme tribalism going over there. See the game, right? But again, she sits there and has the what is that? The Jamaican flag.
People love to
and
uphold Black American resistance as the crown jewel of all African resistance. And let me tell you, okay, that we are descendants of across the globe.
Oh, she's talking about we. It's no we, nothing. American. Hold on, hurry up. If I can find this or not.
The Western Empire that existed in Europe. And the West has never let them forget it, which is why they're in debt right now. While y'all boast about the profit.
So they're a little left on the side against the lesbian flag, lesbian pride flag. So again, you got these little tethers and stuff like that that have this hatred for Black Americans. However it goes on that. But again, I'm not going to waste your ears on that any more than that. But it's interesting under the economy of jealousy on that situation. So in closing, Colin Greenwood here, who is no one knows really, well, not saying no one knows. I wasn't gonna try to look up 1,000 different articles on this person. I just know that he's a Canadian citizen on that. And for only a few years, he had been working for Marta, and they, they put him in a position of CEO, and he got a nice little service package for only working there for only a couple so years. And he fled back to wherever situation, but he's a Canadian citizen, and he, for some reason, got people act like he didn't know that he had a questionable legal status, but he fled, right, on that situation. But Black Americans don't overall flee. Now, there are some problems going on now with the Black Americans. I got that already. But the thing about overall Black Americans are fleers. And there are people who are very jealous. Now, I want you to imagine if Black Americans were sitting there going to certain parts of Africa, right? And you think numbers of African personnel in various places, 50 some plus countries, but a few main countries are going to let a Black American, educated Black American, go in their positions, in their CEO jobs, and their colleges and stuff like that, or go to Jamaica and go in certain types of big time positions. They ain't gonna happen, right? And then we get called that, oh, that Black American had questionable legal status, and they go flee. They ain't gonna let them do it. But it's a game in itself, and I always say this: it's a funny. No, it's not funny, but this last little, it's not even a. Hold on for a second, game. Give me a second, hero. Because unfortunately, there is numbers of Black Americans, the ones applies to, that do not know. Give me a second. I can find it before I finish. Oh, wrong one. That do not know how to play the game. What do you mean by that? I'm going to show you on that. Give me a second, hero. Unfortunately, there is none. Give me 1 second, hero. Where'd it go? What's the game at? Okay, where is my? All right, where is my? This is the last thing I wanted to show, and I'm here we go. Yes, so they know that many American Blacks don't know how to play the game on that situation. On that, what do you mean by that? Yes, about do you know how to play the game? What Black people need to move away from immigrants, let immigrants support their own areas. Now, that's reality on that situation like that, because there is the hatred on that situation, and overall, Black Americans are the most openest people in America, and the main people in this country from predominant culture, they're not trying to sit there and have immigration personnel, or let me phrase that, or border breaker illegal immigrant ones for sure to go infiltrate their neighborhoods, right? Which is an insult by itself, because I've done already a couple of different other podcasts on that, just like when I did one recently with the Essence Festival on that situation. If you're interested, it's you see on the Real CP show thing under the live tab. There are my other different main videos, and one of the ones I did was Essence Festival. And I always like to say, under the first 15 or 20 minutes of that video is when I sit there and show that you won't hear most podcasters ever talk about on that situation on that. And I did various other videos as well. And the thing about it is, I mean, immigration personnel do their thing, but the thing about it is an insult when you got personnel that flee. That's the thing about it for me, when they flee and have the nerve talking about American Blacks on that situation on it, just like the one I was just talking about, how this little fleer, or her parents were being a fleer, and sitting there have the nerve to sit there and talk about Black Americans, right?
Ability of Black American culture. Our tax dollars are literally being used to bomb children in Somalia. They are being used to work with Kenya so that we can have boots on the ground in Haiti. Your tax dollars are going to AFRICOM, that is actively trying to destabilize the Sahel states that are looking for independence from the West right now. So if you think being born on this land makes you more exceptional than other Black people, if you think that being born on this land means that you get to have all of your comforts on the backs of African people all across the world, The congratulations, you've officially been assimilated into the American identity.
I mean, can you? I mean, just imagine you got to be really sick in your mind mentality on that. Because first of all, for me, my mindset is, is a questionable thinking person myself. Because my thing about it is, I'm like, you keep saying African. What part of Africa you talking about? Africa is made up of 50 some plus countries. Who you talking about? Which tribes you talking about? Right? Because you got northern parts of Africa. A lot of the Arabs, certain parts of the non-black Muslims up there. They ain't trying to hear about what's going on in South Africa, right? Numbers of Eastern Africans, the ones supplies to, don't care too much about what's going on in Western Africa. They don't take but a half a sense of research to look that up. But for some reason, Black Americans supposed to be the saviors of all different people on that situation. You know what? I wasn't planning on doing this, but I also want to sit there and show some of the. You know what? I don't know if I can do that now. Give me a second. You know what? Give me a second here. I just want to sit there and show something. Let me give me a second here. Let me get out of this here. Give me a second. I'm closing some stuff down here before I get into what I'm gonna get in. Let me sit there and show. I mean, the hypocrisy is very real and stuff like this. Just like the Colin Greenwood, what the situation was about on this channel today, on this situation, and how they get very quiet when it's about other people that are fleeing. They're quiet on how, again, various types of Caribbean places don't have pan-Caribbean love, right? They have jealousy of one another. Haiti's going through hell across, but you don't hear a lot of parts of DR jumping up and down for them. No. You got what? You got Jamaican. Again, numbers of Jamaicans are hated by various other Caribbean places. You don't have no pan-Caribbean love. You don't see them jumping up and down trying to go to Cuba and helping them out. They know their places, right? You don't hear a pan-African sitting there kicking out second and third wave other colonizers over there. Nope. But for some reason, you got to blame the Black American, right? It's kind of a sick. Give me a second. It's kind of a sick thing. See, it's like when I sit there and give me a second. Let me show my screen for a second. I'm just going to sit there and show you some of these videos. Give me a second. Make sure I got this right here. Okay. Let me go back and I'm just going to do for a few more minutes and I'll go ahead and close it down on this. But when I was sitting there saying that on some of the videos I have, I hear them. Make sure I can show on the screen. Okay. So like this is some of the on this main page on this. Okay, that's one that's going right now. One I haven't started yet. Mexicans that have hypocrisy telling gringos in Mexico areas basically to leave. They ain't gonna talk about that. But when I did another call this recently earlier, model minorities that was having in fight, but Black folks are still, in their mentalities. They don't talk about this. A former Anglo police chief who was a rapist and a murderer had escaped. I did another show called about a violent Hispanic border breaker that tried to flee into the U.S. She was involved in the assassinationist attempt. Two violent illegal Mexican nationals, one sexual predator, and the other was, I think, was a manslaughter type personnel. And this is one I was talking about earlier that I did a few days ago. Well, actually, I said days ago, about a week and a half ago. Essence Festival down, controlled by non-Blacks on that situation, which again, to me, that was a very powerful one. You know what? I didn't plan on doing this, but let me sit there and show you. Actually, if you even ask this question to most people about this situation, most people that have talked about the Essence Festival, they ain't gonna know anything about this. So again, I wouldn't even plan on doing this. But it's good. It's all good a little bit. It's a few more minutes. Give me one moment here. Make sure am I still up here? Make sure I'm still up here. Okay, good. Okay, I'm still up. Good. Make sure. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, let me go back here. Before I do that, 2 Jewish women convicted of forced labor, and I forgot whatever to say after this. A violent Anglo male who murdered 4 university students pleads guilty. Well, I make this point that little Jamaican fleer, right? That tried to act like she was under some kind of black banner or something, which she's not. That had a Jamaican flag on one side and had the lesbian pride flag on the left side of her, trying to talk bad about Black Americans, stuff like that. She got the nerve being a fleer, right? But she ain't gonna talk about, again, this stuff like here, this violent Anglo male who, again, murdered 4 university students, right? White on white crime. She's not going to talk about when I did another video called the N-word, which I can't stand that N-word usage because, again, that is one of the most, I did some other videos on that too. It is a destructive word on that situation, right? It is a destructive word. N-word usage using a Hispanic woman, but used by a Hispanic woman, protest for illegal immigrants. This is the video I did in Omaha, Nebraska, when you had these border break illegal immigrants, all these accomplices that was in there protesting against ICE personnel doing a job, right? But she's using the N-word on that situation. An Anglo guy from Pro Boise, Idaho, Anglo male called, he could not get his anti-American blackness out of his mouth. Other video in hypocrisy, Mexican ones protest South American migrants. You get the point. Where, I hear Sudanese male green card holder tried to flee away from his murder in this trial. She ain't gonna talk about that, right? He fled on this. What's some other I did on here? This Asian male shot 2 other Asians at a nightclub. They won't talk about that on this. A Nigerian Nollywood actress, and she want to talk about Africa. A Nigerian Nollywood actress calls out her own Nigerian men. She ain't gonna talk about that. This Nigerian man got reminded, slapped by his Anglo girlfriend. They ain't gonna talk about that, right? This Nigerian national convicted of transnational inheritance fraud. Multiple Nigerian stowaways were thrown overboard in the ocean, right? So you get the point. See, all this other stuff. See, they don't want to talk about these kind of things that have been going on in Africa. So it's just an interesting part. But I'm gonna show you this one last quick thing. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out on this because it was an interesting thing. Since you want to keep talking about, I guess, how great various parts of Africa and blaming Black Americans and all that old nonsense stuff, right? But they want to talk about when, let me just show it. Give me a second here. And I'm gonna close this out to this because this actually was a good show right here. Show talking about what are you gonna do for Black women? 25, and it's definitely not enough people talking about this. But for me, I wanted to sit there and actually bring up an initial part before it gets kind of inside all the other different things I want to show. But the one major thing that has still not been or was not shown by various people is what I'm about to show you. Because one of the things is not only is it the insult where now you have the fleers that fled from various parts of Africa, the one this applies to. Because there's some good ones. We know that from Africa. I don't even like utilizing the generic African name, right? Without context. You're like, which part of Africa? There are 50 plus countries in Africa, hundreds of different languages, hundreds of different tribes. But you get the point on that. But I'm doing right. This is a part here that has not been talked about because it might be hard to see that one. But the thing with the Essence Festival, and since she's from Jamaican and she's not gonna call herself African, by the way, but they want Black Americans to call themselves Africans, right? But think about it, when Essence Festival was sold, Essence was the magazine was bought by a Liberian African guy, and someone was dealing with her mom, and I guess he had I think another Liberian partner or someone from Africa when they bought that magazine and whatever it is, and came with we call it Essence Fest and stuff like that. And the thing about it, you had numbers of personnel from certain parts of Africa, the ones it applies to, and some other people that will say, "Oh my God, why Black Americans blaming however parts of Africans?" No, they're not blaming generic African. They're blaming the ones who have a hatred for Black folks, don't know anything about Black American history. And so it's like, well, why didn't they sit there and buy it up a little bit? They're gonna get mad at some personnel in Africa who bought it up, right? But the thing about those same people, what many podcasters had not shown, is that that there was, I think it was called Shea Moisture or something, because the Liberian guy Richard Lou Dennis, I think his name was, when he also had a thing called shea butter, and it was along with some other major hair care product type situations. He didn't sell. When he sold, he didn't sell the company to numbers of African personnel, right? He didn't sell to other African personnel. He sold that hair care major shea, moisture, whatever it is, and some other hair care products, I'm guessing underneath there. He sold it to a conglomerate, Anglo-controlled England company. And you got personnel that haven't really talked about on many podcasts, but you got people, oh my goodness, numbers of African personnel once applies to, however, others. Oh, Black Americans should be complaining about, African brother, sister, which that's very generic, buying Essence magazine, and they grabbing up Essence Festival and all that stuff like that, because Black Americans had won it after they had already been around for a while and subscriber count was going down. But the thing about it is they didn't want to talk about how, again, when the same type personnel that bought this Essence magazine and did the Essence Festival and stuff like that, that they was selling the personnel, Richard something, whatever his name, I forgot his name, I'm so tired now. Richard something, whatever his name was, Dennis, that Liberian African, when he sold that major hair care supply type company to non-Africans, and you didn't hear no personnel talking about that part too much. See, that's the little silly little tactic on that part, on that. So, but this is the part right here that's not really talked about on that. Who's the Essence Festival? So as I said, then showed to credentialing and ticketing. Let me read this again. The Solomon Group is ardently inclusive and proudly LGBT owned. We are certified as a diverse business by the largest illness, genus, business advocacy organization in the world, the National Illness, Genus, Chamber of Commerce. But at the same time, they tell American Blacks to get over the past, right? Right? Goes to credentialing, experience, and they didn't even know about this. Yes. Since 2012, the Solomon Group has worked closely with Essence to produce its annual Essence Festival, which draws over 500,000 attendees to New Orleans each year. As one of the largest annual events in North America, Essence Festival requires nearly a year of planning. During the day. Oh, sorry. Dang it. Use its annual Essence Festival. Now, let me stop this. Now, let me go back to, let me read this again. The Solomon Group is ardently inclusive and proudly LGBT owned. We are certified as a diverse business by the largest illness, genus, business advocacy organization in the world. I'll make that point in closing, about to close this up, is that you didn't hear most podcasters talk about that. And that was just only the first. I know I was going real fast on that. I don't want to waste your time. But if you're interested, as you see on that main page, it showed those videos that for most podcasters, they didn't sit there and most of them had not heard about that part on this situation. So like the one I showed you earlier with that Jamaican lady, the one that fled, or her parents fled to America, and she had the Jamaican flag and also had the lesbian pride flag on the left side, had the nerve to talk about black Americans this and black Americans that. But she won't talk about her own darn people in Jamaica, the ones applies to, right? That sit there ain't fighting against foreign invasion in their own countries. She's not talking about various parts of Africa who, again, they're being foreign invaded as well. She's not talking about that. But some about black Americans, they got to sit there and show their hatred, right? Like this guy with Colin Greenwood, right? That he had to step down from MARTA, major transit center in Atlanta, because he had questionable immigration status. But of course, she won't talk about stuff like that because he is a fellow black adjacent rider. So the game is the game on that situation, and they know millions of American blacks don't know how to play the game. Yes. So I do appreciate the ones that's listening today for tuning in to the Real CP Show.
Pat yourself in the back. If you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment a middle finger emoji, because a lot of thanks to our brothers and sisters in Haiti and Jamaica, because without them revolting with just happened to say, if all African peoples across the globe united to demand reparations from the West, we could end this empire today. I don't know what the it is with this weird ass obsession that Black Americans have with holding ourselves and the fact that we are descendants of slaves over everybody else. But I just want to remind y'all that there are descendants of slaves, African descendants of slaves, all up and down the Americas, baby. As a matter of fact, the majority of enslaved African people didn't even come to these shores. They went to the shores of the Caribbean and South America. People love to uphold Black American resistance as the crown jewel of all African resistance. And let me tell you, okay, we owe a lot of thanks to our brothers and sisters in Haiti and Jamaica, because without them revolting when they did, we would not have been free when we were. The Haitian